Trump signs directive banning transgender military recruits. President Donald Trump on Friday directed the military not to move forward with an Obama-era plan that would have allowed transgender individuals to be recruited into the armed forces, following through on his intentions announced a month earlier to ban transgender people from serving. The presidential memorandum also bans the Department of Defense from using its resources to provide medical treatment regimens for transgender individuals currently serving in the military. Trump also directed the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to determine how to address transgender individuals currently serving based on military effectiveness and lethality, unitary cohesion, budgetary constraints, applicable law, and all factors that may be relevant, the White House official said. The White House official who briefed reporters on the memo on Friday evening declined to say whether current transgender troops would be allowed to remain in the military under those policy guidelines. The official signaled that the administration was returning to the military's pre-2016 policy under which no transgender individuals were allowed to serve openly in the armed forces, but said Trump was giving the Secretaries of Defense and Homeland Security leeway to determine the policy on currently serving transgender troops. The official rejected any notion that Trump's directive amounted to discrimination against transgender individuals, and insisted that Trump was not walking back his rhetoric from the 2016 campaign when he vowed to fight for LGBT Americans. The president is the president for all Americans. And during last year's campaign he was the first GOP nominee to talk about LGBTQ issues at the GOP convention, but he also was critical of the Obama administration's change in that long-standing DoD policy. The official said, he's going to continue to ensure that the rights of the LGBTQ community, as well as all Americans, is protected. The official added, this policy is based on a series of national security considerations. The guidance comes a month after Trump said on Twitter that he would reinstate a ban on transgender troops, an announcement that took many in the military's leadership, including the Joint Chiefs of Staff, by surprise. After consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised that the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military, Trump said in a series of tweets. Our military must be focused on decisive and overwhelming victory and cannot be burdened with the tremendous medical costs and disruption that transgender in the military would entail. Thank you, he added. The White House offered no guidance at the time as to how the ban would be implemented, leaving transgender service members wondering about their future in the military. Trump's decision reversed a policy initially approved by the Defense Department under President Barack Obama, which was still under final review, that would have allowed transgender individuals to openly serve in the military. Defense Secretary James Mattis announced in June that he was delaying a decision on whether to allow the military to recruit transgender individuals. Trump's July announcement was met with widespread rebuke by members of both parties and civil rights advocates, who argued that Trump's decision reversed years of progress for LGBT rights and flew in the face of studies showing minimal impacts on the military. A 2016 Rand Corporation study commissioned by the Defense Department concluded that letting transgender people serve openly would have a minimal impact on readiness and health care costs, largely because there are so few in the military's 1.3 million member force. The study put the number of transgender people in the military at between 1,320 and 6,630. Gender change surgery is rare in the general population, and the RAND study estimated the possibility of 30 to 140 new hormone treatments a year in the military, with 25 to 130 gender transition-related surgeries among active service members annually. The cost could range from $2.4 million and $8.4 million a year, an amount that would represent an exceedingly small proportion of total health care expenditures, the study found. President Donald Trump has officially signed a directive Friday banning transgender recruits from the military. The memo also prohibits the Pentagon from spending resources on gender transition treatments, CNN reports. It's unclear how currently serving transgender will be treated, as the memo asks the Pentagon and Department of Homeland Security to determine how to address transgender individuals currently serving based on military effectiveness and lethality, unitary cohesion, budgetary constraints, applicable law, and all factors that may be relevant. A White House official told reporters. Trump's transgender ban, officially issued nearly a month after his announcement of it on Twitter, reverses an Obama administration policy from 2016 allowing transgenders to serve openly in the military. The Obama administration plan also called for the services to develop new policies to allow new transgender recruits to join the military, but the services requested a delay of implementation, and now it appears that delay has been turned into an outright ban. President Donald Trump has taken official action on his tweets from July, signing a directive on Friday that will bar the Pentagon from allowing transgender individuals from openly serving in the military. The move reverses an Obama-era plan that would have allowed transgender individuals to serve in the armed forces. Per the new directive, the Department of Defense will have 6 months to develop a plan on how to implement the ban, reports CNN. In my judgment, the previous administration failed to identify a sufficient basis to conclude that terminating the department's long-standing policy and practice would not hinder military effectiveness and lethality, disrupt unit cohesion, or tax military resources, and there remain meaningful concerns that further study is needed to ensure the continued implementation of last year's policy change would not have those negative effects, Trump said in the presidential memorandum. Also included in the directive, a ban on the Department of Defense using its funds on gender reassignment surgeries for transgender individuals currently in the military, except in situations where the medical regimen is already taking place. The official memo comes a month after Trump declared the ban via Twitter, blaming tremendous medical costs and disruption that transgender in the military would entail. LGBT groups quickly spoke out against Trump's tweets, and detractors pointed to the fact that said costs are small compared to other factors in the military's budget. The Pentagon ended its previous transgender ban in June 2016. Then Defense Secretary Ash Carter gave the Pentagon a year to study how to allow transgender individuals to join the military. President Donald Trump on Friday signed a directive reinstating a ban on transgender individuals from serving in the military, although it defers to the Pentagon on whether to remove those now in uniform and leaves open the door for it to seek changes. Trump's directive, issued to the Defense and Homeland Security departments, reinstates a prohibition of transgender service members lifted last year, putting a formal stamp on a politically divisive change in military personnel policy that Trump first announced last month. It also bars funding to pay for gender reassignment surgeries except when necessary to protect the health of an individual who has already begun a course of treatment to reassign his or her sex. The guidance gives Defense Secretary Jim Mattis until February 21, 2018. To submit a plan for implementing the new policy. It also leaves decision of whether to remove current troops to Mattis. The White House memo also leaves the door open for further changes in the transgender policy, stating that Mattis may advise him on changes. The Secretary of Defense, after consulting with the Secretary of Homeland Security, may advise me at any time, in writing, that a change to this policy is warranted, the memo states. Then Defense Secretary Ash Carter announced in June 2016 the ban on transgender troops would be lifted. Mattis, however, delayed implementation of the policy for new recruits by 6 months to allow for further study. Trump first revealed he would reverse the policy in a series of tweets on July 26, announcing transgender individuals would not be allowed to serve in any capacity in the military. Trump's announcement last month on Twitter that he planned to reverse the Obama policy was hailed by some conservatives who argue that the military has become a social experiment. But it also drew widespread condemnation from Democrats and some Republicans, who argue the policy shift is discriminatory and would disrupt military readiness. Pentagon spokeswoman Dana White Friday confirmed in a statement that the department had received the guidance but provided no further details. The Department of Defense has received formal guidance from the White House in reference to transgender personnel serving in the military, White said. More information will be forthcoming. Experts predict that implementation of the ban will prove a lethal thicket and predict a series of court challenges that will likely delay the policy.